Hello, everybody. This is Mike Kilgore with 3i Supply, and we're here today. And I know this has been kind of a fun, kind of full week. We've talked about a few different products. We've talked about 8700. We've talked about sand. We've talked about different things that 3i Supply is doing as far as sealing is concerned. But it's not always about what we're doing as far as the products itself. I think that it's important to have a successful business. You need to know as many different things that are available to you, whether it be from insurance, liability insurance, Workman's Comp insurance, also the different CRM programs, what brings everything together to make a successful business. And today we are going to be talking to Ashley Jeffery with Frank Crum. She is my personal person that helps me with my Workman's Comp. And I'm going to bring her in now so you guys will be able to see her. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we met and what we do. Somebody's, or is that them pulling up? Okay. And how we met. And then we're going to answer some questions. So if you do have some questions that you want to have answered, by all means, please post them up. I'm going to be looking for them, and we'll see if we can't answer those questions as best we possibly can. So I'm going to bring in Miss Ashley. Hello, Miss Ashley. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing fantastic. We dodged a big rain cell this morning, so we're getting this worked out really well for us. So I just wanted to spend some time with you and talk to you a little bit more. I know that Workman's Comp is probably one of the most difficult things that people are trying to navigate. There's a lot of false information. And one of the things that we want to talk about, and I want to put a claim out there. This is the information that's going to be shared in this broadcast is going to be coming from Ashley about what Frank Crum, how they perceive and the things that they can offer. There are thousands of different options out there, but this is something that she's going to be answering these from the perspective of Frank Crum's piece. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah. So, Ash, let me back up just a little bit. So about 2 years ago, I was in the same situation. I was too big to be small, but I was too small to be big. And what I mean by that is that I needed Workman's Comp insurance to be able to go after some of the bigger jobs. But more importantly, as we were adding more and more employees to the Easy Nano Seal and the Ninja Power Soft Wash, and we were adding those things in, we were becoming more and more vulnerable to any types of injuries that could happen. And I wanted to make sure that we provided not only a good work environment, but a safe work environment that we could protect our employees. So Workman's Comp became a place that we needed to go into. I sent a bunch of emails out to a bunch of places. And I got a phone call back from a girl named Ashley. And she called me. A couple of days later, she called me. I talked to a couple of other places. I found other agents. I actually signed up with an agent. After 2 or 3 months, I realized that there was a lot of misinformation that was happening. Another month goes by. Every single week, Ashley was giving me a call. Every other week. I'm telling you, this is the girl that you want to have with follow-ups. Ultimately, after what? 6 months?
At least
6 months? Yeah. About 6 months or so, I had to make that phone call. Hi, Ashley. It's Mike Kilgore. The phone dropped. Who is this strange guy? I said, look, I'm here's where I'm at. I'm more educated now. I feel like I need someone to just be level with me, straight talk with me, tell me what we need to do, and where can we go? Don't sugarcoat anything. Tell me what to do. And I'll tell you, my experience with Ashley at that point showed me that there is true professionals out there that know their stuff. and are willing to go through that extra mile to make sure that you have what you need. And I'm telling you, my experience just in this last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I had a client that said, I know you're with a PEO, but would you be interested in going on your own? And I flat out told them, if I can't keep my insurance with Frank Crum, I don't need you as a client. So that's how strong I feel about that relationship with Ashley, and she's fantastic. So I'm not going to blow smoke anymore. We're going to go into details, but she made me promise. Made me promise that after we got done setting up, that I would tell her she's right. And so this is my public, you were right.
It's such a wonderful, you were right.
Just, I think it was good. So Ashley, let's kind of just dig into it. I know the guys don't want to hear me blah, 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 blah. They want to hear you talk. Trust me, they want to see you more than they want to see me. But tell us more about Frank Crum. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So Frank Crum is what's called a PEO, which is a professional employers organization. A more outdated term that some might be familiar with is employee leasing. We have been in business for over 37 years. We are corporately headquartered in Clearwater, and we are still a family-owned and operated business. In fact, this is my little area, and Frank Crum himself is straight down the hall, not more than 30 steps. So everything is done in-house through Frank Crum. Nothing is outsourced. And we co-employ with our clients to help with workers' comp, payroll, HR, benefits, and benefits administration. We are a little unique in this industry as we're self-insured. We have Frank Crum Insurance Agency, which was actually created to help PEO clients. Because we're self-insured, we have a little bit more flexibility. We can typically offer discounted rates. We will write some codes that a standalone market might not. Eventually, most business owners get to a place where they have to have workers' comp. They really need to outsource payroll because that's not what they went into business to do. They have HR questions that are coming up more often than not. So rather than outsourcing those to multiple vendors, Frank Crum consolidates. We become your one-stop shop, and we essentially allow our business owners to focus on their operational and revenue-producing side of the business, and we help take care of their back office needs.
Wow, that's fantastic. So tell us, what is an actual PEO and how does it work? I mean, what is a PEO and how does it work?
So how it works, when you get down to the bare bones of it, our clients' employees are filed under Frank Crum's federal tax ID number. As soon as that happens, we are now responsible for workers' comp coverage for those employees, processing their payroll, reconciling their state and federal taxes, filing their W-2s. We're talking W-3s, 940s, 941s, wage garnishments, unemployment claims. Frank Crum is now taking over providing the workers' comp coverage and any payroll and payroll tax responsibility that comes along with owning a business. Now, the misconception is, oh, well, now I no longer control my business. And that's just absolutely not the case. The worksite employer is still going to control day-to-day operations, who they hire, who they fire, and how they run their business. We're just going to take the liability of the payroll taxes, and the workers' comp insurance.
Well, that's, I can tell you in our business, I can do my payroll. The first time we went through it, I can do my payroll 15, 20 minutes. Sure. It is the great thing I like about it. Now, I am a computer nerd, as you can kind of see with some of the technology that we do out there. But the thing that I do like is not only and I'm going to speak from personal experience with Frank Crum. I'm not trying to make this sound like an infomercial. That's really not my point. My point is that whenever I've had any problems whatsoever, I've called in and a person has answered the phone, and I've been able to call in on a cruise ship and do my payroll. I was able to call in and do my payroll from wherever it was at, but I could also do it all from my computer at midnight when I needed to. And there's always those safety precautions that were there. So it allowed me to not have to worry about, am I taking this money out, that money out, this and that. And frankly, no pun intended, the next day when I got done doing some of the payroll that happened, I would get an email that says, okay, you're done with your payroll. This is how much money is coming out. And that was it. So it really has freed up a tremendous amount of stress on me as an employer to making sure that everything is taken care of.
Absolutely. Well, I think at the end of the day, nobody really goes into business to worry about payroll. Nobody wants to go into business to worry about how are we going to handle a wage garnishment that's coming through? Are we reporting it to the state in time? Nobody goes into business to fight an unemployment claim and worry about all these rules and regulations that are always changing. We're here to make your life easy. We want you to focus on your business. If you call us, again, nothing's outsourced. You're always going to get a primary team. I am always a primary point of contact. So if you can't get to the right person, you absolutely call me. I will get you to where you need to be. But payroll might take 15 minutes, but it doesn't take 15 minutes when you're talking about adding in your taxes and all those other things that come along with it. We're allowing you to either call in, email in, or online enter your payroll in 10 minutes, and that's covering everything for you on the payroll and payroll tax side.
Great. I'm a fan, as you can see, or I wouldn't be doing this. So let's go into probably one of the most asked questions in Workman's Comp is, can I be exempt from Workman's Comp? And there's two parts to this question, and I'm going to ask them together, and maybe we can get the same answer together and kind of combine them together. One of them being is, can I be exempt from Workman's Comp? And is it required to have Workman's Comp if you have 4 or less employees?
Well, which one do you want to tackle first?
Let's go with, can I exempt from Workers' Comp?
So can a business owner be exempt? The answer is yes. There are rules and regulations in regards to whether or not it's a sole proprietorship. Is it a corporation? Is it an LLC? There's going to be a little bit of variance regarding being exempt depending on which type of business you are. But as far as a single owner operator is concerned, can they be exempt? Yes. Do we suggest they be exempt? No, I'm sure we'll get to that, but yes, they can. They have to file the appropriate paperwork with the state. There's a small fee. I want to say it's about $50. The long answer is yes, they can. The minute details just depend on what type of business they are.
And we're going to touch on that because I do have a question that did come in where we talked about where you said, should I be exempt and how do I do that? And can I get Workman's Comp? But the other question is it required to have Workman's Comp if you have 4 or less employees?
Mm-hmm. So it's going to completely depend on the industry. If you have anything to do with the construction industry, if you are considered under the umbrella of construction, if you have 1 employee, you need to have workers' comp coverage. Now, certain industries do not require it if there's 4 or less. If you're talking about maybe a law firm or a medical practice, a CPA or an accountant. If you are in a white collar industry, if you will, if you have less than 4 employees, it is not required. However, what's important to remember is that workers' comp is the sole remedy for worksite problems, or injuries, I should say. So it doesn't really matter if you have 1 employee or you have 4. If that 1 employee gets hurt and they're not covered under workers' comp insurance, who's paying that bill? It's ultimately landing on the company. It's ultimately landing on the business owner. That's why in sort of blue collar construction, plumbing, painting, etc., it doesn't matter if you just have 1. You have to have workers' comp coverage in the state of Florida if you're under the umbrella of the construction industry.
And that's when we talk about Workman's Comp, and you brought up a really minute piece there. Every state has different regulations.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. It is run by the state. It is ruled by the state, if you will. So it's going to change state by state by state. What I speak today will speak to predominantly Florida.
Right. But now, does Frank Crum offer? Can you cover other states?
We can. So we're licensed in 48 states.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a few states that are monopolistic, which means you have to get it from the state. That's going to speak to Washington, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Ohio. In those particular states, you can only get workers' comp from the state, but we write in 48 states. If it's not Frank Crum Insurance Agency, it's our partner.
Okay. And that's you and I know this is kind of a simple question, but I would assume that depending on the state, you're able to determine what is acceptable and needed for that specific state. I can tell you in this industry, especially in the pressure washing, a lot of us are more worried about making sure that we do the minimum to be able to get the job.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that say, what is the minimum requirement that I can get? And so by having someone that specializes in that state, each state has their own mandate, and you would be able to help guide them through that.
That is correct.
State and what they have there.
That's correct. And it's also important to note that the rates change by the state. The state mandates the rates. So you want us to know exactly what Georgia charges and what Alabama charges. Texas is a great example. Texas rates are lower than Florida. So you're going to want us, we're going to need to know that you're moving into a different state if that's what you're choosing to do. And of course, you want us to know all the rules and regulations and the rates so that everything's coded appropriately and you're covered appropriately.
All right. Now, there was a question that came in, and the person said that I am the only person they are requiring that I have Workman's Comp, and they had gotten information from other people. And again, this is what I'm looking for is Frank Crum's policy is I am a sole worker. I am the chief cook and bottle washer of this job. And am I able, and I know you can only speak through Frank Crum's eyes, to be able to get Workman's Comp on myself? And what would be some of the, looking from a 50,000 square foot, 50,000 view, what would be some of the requirements for me to be able to get it myself, on myself?
So through Frank Crum, an owner-operator, we absolutely can cover you. There's going to be some specifics here, like what type of business are we talking about, so on and so forth. But we can typically extend coverage to an owner-operator as a sole proprietorship. That's not a problem for Frank Crum. We have payroll minimums. Owners have to run a minimum of $455 a week in payroll. That's $23,660 a year. But other than that, and making sure we're not getting too deep here when we're talking about codes and what type of work is being done, typically speaking, absolutely, Frank Crum can provide coverage for an owner-operator sole proprietorship.
Okay. Why should I have Workman's Comp?
What happened? I mean, why?
I mean, I know, but why should I have Workman's Comp?
I mean, I feel like the question should be, why why wouldn't I have workers' comp? I mean, stuff happens all the time. It happens quickly and it happens before you even recognize it. I mean, I tripped one day here walking to the lunchroom, right? And that's covered under workers' comp. And that's just something small and baby. But when you're talking about employing W-2 employees and you're taking them to a job site and they're providing a job to you, if they get hurt and you do not have workers' comp and coverage for them, it is coming for you. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty. They're going to come after the business owner. They're going to come after the company because they were working on your job site. You should have had workers' comp coverage for them. You really can't afford not to. What we hear all the time is, oh, well, I really can't afford workers' comp coverage. Well, what you really can't afford is a $200,000 claim that's going to put your business under. That's what you really can't afford, right?
No,
it is the sole. It is the sole. Yeah, it is the sole remedy for workplace injuries. If somebody gets hurt on the job, it goes to workers' comp. And if you don't have it, there are problems day in and day out. I have a client of mine, similar industry as yours. He's been with me for a few years now. And I actually went and met with him last week. And he said, Ashley, it was the wildest thing. He said, I was out at my job site and I had 4 workers. And all of a sudden I saw 2 vans pull up, 2 dark, sort of looked like police cars pulling up. He goes, and I thought, I wonder what that was. Or I wonder what they're doing. What's going on in the neighborhood? He said, and then about 10 minutes later, they came out and said, well, what's your legal business name? And he gave them the name and they said, oh, okay, because we were running the state information under your DBA that's on all your trucks, and it didn't look like you had workers' comp coverage. I mean, they even are going out now and visiting job sites and verifying whether or not these company owners have workers' comp insurance. It's really just no joke. It's something that's really necessary these days. And it comes down to, again, I feel like you really can't afford not to have it.
I agree with you. And by having those Workman's Comp, it is a sales piece that we use when we go to a client and we sit down with them. We show them our Workman's Comp policy. More importantly, we're going to go into something that is a little bit of a trickiness here, and this is called splitting codes. And a lot of, I'm going to speak from, this is why I called Ashley Jeffery. Now, I'm going to put this out there. You cannot always split codes. It's not something that everybody can do. It's not something that Frank Crum can offer to everyone, but there are options. And I want to explain my side and then have you kind of just chime in a little bit about what it is there. And then I've got a question that came in from Sixto. So Sixto, I'm going to get to you on your question here, and it's a good question, and I'll bring that up there. When I was working with other clients, those or other companies, they wanted to put me in because I clean roofs. They wanted to put me in the roof cleaning code, and that was going to be it. I believe one of the most expensive codes. There may be other ones that are a little bit higher, but it is definitely located at one of the top, and that's 5551. That's going to be, when we talked originally, I said, you said, what codes are you looking for? And I said clerical at 8810. And she went, uh-huh. And then I said pressure washing and janitorial at 9014. And uh-huh. And I said, and sealing, because we do sealing and painting, that's going to be 5474. And she goes, and
which other code are you looking for?
5551. She goes, and there it is.
Right.
5551. I can't tell you how many people I have found that are wrongly classified underneath 9014 janitorial and are told it's absolutely okay for them to get on a roof. It is okay for them to step on a roof. It's okay for them to clean a roof on the roof. There's so many variances that had there. And I got this kind of comment that came back to me. Don't worry about it, Mike. It's all right, man. You're covered. It's all good. I hate to tell you this, but someone falls off that roof. They don't care. I just got covered. They're not going to talk to the agent. They're going to look at that code and see what you're covered underneath. So splitting codes allows you, or allows me, to be able to not only save money, because at the end of the day, it allows me to save some money because I'm only on the roof maybe 15% of the time. A lot of time I'm sealing, a lot of time I'm cleaning, a lot of time I'm doing just paperwork around the area that's there. So when I get on a roof and splitting a code, I'm able to say I was on the roof for 6 hours. It's not about saving the money as much as it is to be properly covered. If I'm 100% covered underneath clerical or underneath pressure washing, as soon as I step on that roof, I'm no longer covered. If I'm not covered underneath 5551.
Right.
So I'm not going to, I feel like when I sat down with other agents and told them, and we had this conversation, it's not about saving the money on it as much as it is that if Justin, Frank, Jim, Billy, Greg, whoever's working for me, if they're doing a job for me, I don't mind spending the money as long as they're covered properly. What's the worst is spending the money but not having coverage. So talking about splitting codes allows you to be able to properly cover yourself, especially if you're in a business that provides various different things. If you're doing just pressure washing, you're just doing flat work, you're just cleaning houses, you're shooting everything from the ground, you're doing those kinds of things, hey, 9014 pressure washing janitorial, probably going to be the right thing for you. But you better not be covered underneath clerical. And I see that all day long. We're going to talk about how to sell against that here in just a little bit. I'm going to talk about that because that's what I do. But can you expand a little bit maybe? I think I tried to explain how important that is if you have a business that is doing pressure washing and maybe you're going to do sealing or maybe you're going to do roof cleaning.
So typically speaking, on the open market, you can have a couple different codes, but they're going to code you and charge you based off the most expensive code. That is typically how the open market's going to work. They're going to put you under maybe a general construction code because they're going to want to make sure that they're collecting the necessary premium should there be an industry. In certain instances with Frank Crum, we can allow companies to split a code in between doing some sealing, doing some power washing, doing some roofing coating. There's a bunch of ins and outs with that. It's certainly a case-by-case basis, but in certain instances, we can split codes, which is really unheard of on the open market. Typically in the open market, they're just going to put you all under the most expensive code and you're going to move on. And I think what you said it best. You're absolutely right. Is it important sort of to save money? Absolutely. But it's really important to make sure you have the appropriate coverage. Because if you're under a 9014 janitorial code, but you're getting on a roof and somebody, God forbid, falls off that roof, you're looking at the possibility of your insurance carrier denying that claim. And then you're out way more money than it would have cost to pay that premium for the appropriate coverage. So it's not just saving money, it's making sure that you are looking towards the future, looking beyond and protecting the business as a whole, I feel like, versus maybe just saving a little bit that year on your premium.
I agree with you. So again, the disclaimer is, and we've talked about this where you have people talking about splitting codes. This doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone. Right. Not everyone can do that. Sometimes only ninjas can do that.
Right.
I had to do that. It was like a layup.
It was good.
There, it was ninjas or the easy nano seals. Sixto Garza, he's out in Texas. His name is Sixto. I'm going to put the question up here. He mentions a really interesting question that's here, and I see this a lot too. It says, in Texas, can you get workman? And I know this is, you're in Florida and stuff, but I've seen this. Can you get Workman's Comp for your employees, but then exempt yourself as the owner?
As long as you're not with Frank Crum, the answer is yes. Frank Crum would require the owner to run and get the workers' comp coverage, but in Texas, they don't even. The answer is yes. The answer to that is yes. In Texas, you can get it for your employees and not yourself. It's to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Good. So I'm going to talk a little bit. This is going to be me kind of talking here. I'm gonna switch out how we look at each other here, because I think this is important from a sales tactic that we use at Easy Nano Seal, Ninja Power Soft Wash. You don't really have to do it with 3i Supply, but it's important for us to talk about this. When you're bidding against a company that has Workman's Comp, this is important that when they have Workman's Comp and you have Workman's Comp, I think it's important to be able to have them say, well, I know you're working with another company that has Workman's Comp. I have Workman's Comp, but let's compare deck sheets. Let's compare the coverages of what you have. I can't tell you how many people I have seen that have ghost policies. And what that means is they contact a carrier and they say, I just need something that shows me I've got Workman's Comp so that I can get this job. Covers absolutely nothing. I have seen this so many times. I'm going to speak specifically in Florida. I've seen this so many times that I've gone against someone that's with the homeowners association, and that homeowners association says, well, you keep talking about Workman's Comp, and you keep talking about liability insurance, and you keep talking about licensing, and you talk about those things, but those guys have it too. No problem. But their coverage is $200,000 and they're claimed underneath clerical. If something happens to those people on your property, they're coming after you. Those people are coming after you. It's scary out there. How many people are doing just the bare minimum? So when you're selling against other people that have Workman's Comp, you need to educate that customer of what are their limits? What are their codes? What are they covered underneath? If you're wanting them to clean your roof, do you want someone up there that is covered underneath janitorial, and then all of a sudden they step on top of your roof and they fall off and someone gets hurt? You've got problems. We're covered underneath. So full disclosure, full coverage is so important in the Workman's Comp and the sales aspect of it, to making sure that your customers, and I can tell you, I have closed more business by educating my customer that just because you have Workman's Comp, we see that in the licensing. I'm going to expand on that just a small bit. In licensing, everybody says, I'm licensed and insured. I'm licensed and insured. In Pinellas County in Florida, one of the hardest places to get a license, you have to have a painter's license. But everyone is posting up that they have a license. No, you cannot have an occupational license, but the customer doesn't know the difference. They think, oh, well, he's licensed. That's not the right type of license. And that's why when I talk about Workman's Comp, it's not just about having Workman's Comp, it's having the right Workman's Comp is so important. Does that make sense? So how can a PEO like Frank Crum simplify operations? I know the answer to that, but how can it simplify operations?
I think that it really allows you to consolidate a lot of services that if you don't need now, you're going to once you start growing and you have a couple of employees that you don't initially really think about. So a large scale example is some HR support, right? Small businesses typically think to themselves, well, I don't really need HR support. I've only got a handful of employees. Well, a perfect example is I had a client call me and they said, my employee told me that I need to start paying him to drive to and from the job site, and I don't know if that's accurate or not. Can you help me? They go to our HR department. They have an employee who lost their paycheck, lost their pay stub. Rather than the employer having to deal with it, if you will, they call Frank Crum because we will assist with that. We're going to consolidate all of these services that you're eventually going to need, which allows you to streamline your business. That's really what it is. It's really boiling down to, would you rather have 5 different point of contacts, or would you like to have one who's going to make your life easier and is a central point of contact for almost all of your business needs? You can call Frank Crum. Essentially, we offer over 100 services to our clients. More often than not, we're going to be able to help you with that. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of be always going to different people, and just come to Frank Crum and we'll get you to the right place and we'll get you situated to the best of our ability.
And they're not kidding. There is a program that we're a part of called Ask Frank. Ask Frank. Is that it?
Frank Advice. Frank Advice.
Frank Advice. That's it. Frank Advice. And when I signed up with them, they gave me a sheet. It was landscape, and it had 101 services offered by Frank Crum. And I seriously sat down and started at the top and started circling numbers. And I sent a list in to Ashley, and I said, I'm interested in number 1, 13, 18, 22, 65, 22, and 35. She goes, I've never had anybody send something in like that. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm kind of different. And so One of them was movie tickets.
Yeah.
They can help you get movie tickets. I don't know, so this is kind of the thing that I like the most. We've talked about there's a couple of guys that are on here that do like operations, and they talk about how you should operate and how you should really keep things organized. And one of them is an employee handbook.
Yes.
So that setting expectations not only for your customers is so important in our business. It's so important. But also making sure that you have expectations, guidelines, and rules for the employees. And they have all the information that they need to be able to feel empowered and successful in their business. So one of the services is an employee handbook that you can have made by Frank Crum. There's so many different things, all the way from disciplinary actions, going through that process. I looked at some of these, and my wife is a labor and delivery nurse at Morton Plant in charge of this, and she goes through, and it's funny because I bring home, I say, boy, I'm having a problem. These are the things that I'm happening. And she will say, well, did you, document this? Did you write this? Did you do this? And you can see. And when I got that information from Frank Crum, I went, these are the steps that hospitals are going through that this company is providing to me as part of their employee.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, employee handbooks are really important. Just to touch on that real quick. I mean, we really feel like that's the first line of defense, bar none. You need to have an employee handbook. Absolutely. It doesn't matter how many employees you have. So we will custom create one for you. It is not a one-size-fits-all company handbook that all of our clients are getting. It's completely customized to you, your location, state, federal, local rules and regulations. If you're talking about, termination processing or discrimination issues that maybe come up, or workplace tort or sexual harassment. I mean, the HR world right now is real crazy. I think we just have to turn on the news and we can hear all about it. It is wild, and most people don't have an HR person on staff to handle it. And this is now when we're talking about, again, a business owner that's wearing all these different hats when they really want to just go out there and sell and get some new business, right?
That's all we want to
but
do.
Something to keep in mind too is when you partner with Frank Crum, you're accessing Fortune 500 benefits. It's the power of large numbers. So you can now offer to your employees vision insurance, dental insurance, long-term and short-term disability. We have pet insurance. We have car insurance that comes out of their paycheck. All these ancillary benefits that are hard to obtain as a smaller company.
Do you have any diet plans?
No. I don't know.
No.
If I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you, though.
I like that. I'll find
out the answer for you. So there's a lot of moving parts to this that allow you to streamline and consolidate your vendors into one.
That's great. Well, Ashley, it's there's so much information that's out there, and like I said in the beginning, it's part of our responsibility as vendors, as 3i Supply, as Easy Nano Seal, as Ninja Power Soft Wash, for us to help in educating other contractors, making sure that they have information. Trust me, we just touched on 7 or 8 questions that are out there. There's multiple different ways in which this world can go. Workman's Comp is a scary animal, and you have, and this is my personal, is you've done a very good job of allowing me to understand what I can do. You've always taken my phone calls. You've always answered my questions. More importantly is you just didn't give me any fluff. I want to say a lot of things, but you didn't give me a lot of fluff. And I can't tell you, at the beginning I said, Ashley, good, bad, ugly, just tell me so that I know what I'm dealing with. Because I take what people say as gospel, and I am going to make decisions in my business based on what they tell me.
Right.
And your advice has been great, and it's been fantastic.
Well,
I appreciate you taking the time on Thursday at 1:30. I know all the people that are in that office there are all hiding down behind all the things. So it's going to be like a big surprise party whenever I get down there. I'm going to go, surprise! They're all going to jump up and everything. But more importantly, I'm putting this up here. If you have questions and you have concerns, again, the disclaimer is this doesn't work for everyone, but if you have needs and wants with insurance, with Workman's Comp insurance, Ashley can help, can at least get that ball rolling. Does that make sense?
And absolutely makes sense. And I'm nothing if not honest. If we can't help you, I'll be the first one to tell you that and suggest a different route for you. I don't want to waste your time. Frankly, I don't want to waste my time. So I will tell you exactly where we stand right from the beginning.
That's great. Well, I want to say thank you again. I'm going to jump back onto me real quick. Just stay online with us for a second here. It's important to us to always share. It's always important for 3i Supply to educate. Like I told you before, our core values are interested, insightful, and innovative. We're interested in your concerns. We're insightful by giving you as much information as we can to make you a success. And we're innovative by making sure that you have all the top end information as well as products that are out there. So we want to thank you again for being part of the 3i Supply family. This is a family owned and operated business. We want to thank you for all of your support over the last year or so with 3i Supply, Easy Nano Seal, Ninja Power Soft Wash, as well as all the people that have taught me things and allowed me to be in this position. So thank you again. Give Ashley a call. And if you have any questions, give us a call. I'm Mike Kilgore with 3i Supply, 727-388-4969, or visit us on the website, www.3i, the number 3, the letter I, supply.net. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.